my channel, or welcome if you're new. I'm Emily. I'm the Ginger Fringe over on Instagram, so if you want to go give me a follow, please do. And if you like today's video, please do consider liking and subscribing. Today is all going to be all about how I turned a £16,600 wedding into a £10,600 wedding. So I've saved myself £6,000, which is a big proportion of the entire wedding budget really. So pretty impressed with myself, and I thought I'd share with you how I did it. Without further ado, let me show you my spreadsheet, because I love a spreadsheet and that will be the best way for me to explain to you what I've done and why I've done it. You are very welcome to use what I've got down here as your list of things that you need to get. The way that really helped me was I basically went on to Bridebook, which is an app to help you with wedding planning. I didn't really use it for the way that it was intended, but one thing I did really think was handy. It does give you an idea of when you want to start thinking about certain things and just everything that you do need. So as you can see, I managed to turn a £16,600 wedding into a £10,600 wedding. So just to add here, by the way, this status column, this is just to indicate whether we have not paid at all, paid some, or paid all. Then this is what I've budgeted. This is the actual cost it's ended up being. This is what we've paid so far, including any deposits or anything. This is what's remaining and we still need to be able to fund. So this was the really important column for me when I was planning about how much money I needed when I was on maternity leave, because this is the money that's outstanding for our wedding. And then this is when that is due, which is also really important because they're all due at different days. First of all, with the venue. So I picked a venue which we thought was beautiful, and we were really surprised that we managed to get one that was that amazing for the price. The only thing to be wary of is the ones that sort of lull you in with the lower prices often have hidden costs. So what I've done here is I've added up the actual cost, which includes things like those hidden charges. So this actually looks like it was going to cost us something like £3,900. That was how they marketed their venue cost. That's not actually true, because there are things like, so corkage for one, that cost alone is £900. Just to get ready in the bridal preparation room, that's £150. And then ceremony room hire, like again, that's the wedding. So I don't really understand why they charge extra for that. I suppose maybe for couples that aren't having the wedding there and they're just doing the reception, but to me it's just like classic wedding tactic of the second you add wedding to anything you're asking for, the price does just increase. So it's just something for you guys to be aware of. If it lulls you in with a price that looks a lot lower than other venues, then there probably are going to be hidden costs. So just make sure that you get your venue to be upfront about all the costs all in and what those will include. That said, this is still a really reasonable venue. Another thing that I would say to bear in mind when you're thinking about saving money for your wedding is keep it to where you live. So things like travel, accommodation, those are just costs you don't have to worry about if you do go for something local. Second, I've got our damages deposit. So I've actually put this in as £0 because it's not an actual cost to us, but we do have to pay the venue £500, which they will return when there's no damage. Registrar, so this is a cost that I didn't really expect would be this much. It's £710. I think it's normally £630, but we had to change our arrangements once or twice because of things like COVID and the baby. That's not something you can really save money on. I would say that obviously the cheapest way to get married is to get married at a registry office. It's much cheaper, so the cost of doing that is something like £300, and obviously that's your venue cost as well then. So if you are really looking to skimp and save, then that's a really easy way to save some money. To give notice of marriage, it costs £35 per person. That is a complete hidden cost that you don't realise until you start looking at wedding planning, so make sure you do include that in your budget. It's £35 per person. You need to make an appointment with your local registry office or your ceremonies office about 3 months before the wedding. Also, if you give notice and then you change your venue or change your date, you have to give it again, so try not to do this until you absolutely have to. Food. So the only cost I've included here is £270. Now that is because we have to pay the venue a fee for being able to use our own caterers, because they, like many other wedding venues, will have their own approved caterers that they are just used to working with and have a little bit of monopoly, so are more expensive. So for us to be able to use their kitchen and do it ourselves, we have had to pay them a fee. Now, I don't think this is an option that's available to just anyone, because Louis has 3 restaurants and he has catered weddings before. They accepted this, but generally I think venues are quite strict on doing it through their approved caterers. So that's another thing to bear in mind when choosing your venue. Just make sure that you pick one where you think that you can work with some of their caterers, because you're probably going to be stuck with them and you want to make sure that the food is up to the standard that you want. So booze, we have paid already for, we've got a favourite Prosecco. Both of us aren't massive Prosecco fans, but there's one that we both really like and has special meaning to us. So when it was on offer at Laithwaite's, we actually ordered all the wedding Prosecco that we would need to do the toasts with. Photographer, my budget was £1,300. I really wanted a videographer as well, but Louis was so not keen. And now that I know I'm going to be on maternity leave when we get married, I have decided to ditch the videographer. So that's one easy way to save money, is don't worry about a videographer. When are you really going to watch the video anyway? I mean, I would have loved it. I think it's a really nice thing to do on your anniversary, but you know, it's not necessary, and definitely the photos are most important. Flowers. Now flowers, I was able to trim a lot of fat here. So I had an original quote which was for over £1,000, and I was happy with that. But obviously then things changed and I decided that actually, no, Emily, you need to let some things go. So what I've basically kept is the bridal bouquet, the bridesmaids bouquets, and the groom's buttonholes, and there's not a lot else that I've kept besides those things. What I had previously got was things like flower petals going down the aisles. Now that's just an unnecessary charge and something I could definitely have provided myself. There's an arch in our venue which I had asked her to decorate quarter of the arch. That was £250, that was for quarter of the arch. I ideally wanted all of the arch, but I thought to myself, even back when I wasn't worried about the budget, I can't really justify that in my mind because flowers die. They look great in the photos, but it's really hard to justify spending the money that you can end up spending on these flowers on stuff that's just gonna die. So we got rid of the arch. I'm gonna sort of try and do something creative with that myself using some fake foliage. We got rid of the flowers and things to go on the guest book table, and also there was going to be some floral decoration on the table plan easel, but I've got rid of that as well. I've saved some money by making sure that our top table decoration is basically going to be the bridal bouquet. So once they've used them during the ceremony, they'll then become part of the top table decoration, which covers like a really long table and is like a two birds with one stone. So that's a really, really handy thing to do. The other way that I've saved money is to say that instead of having like big formal floral centerpieces on each of the guest tables, I'm going to have little tiny bud vases with just a few flowers in like little jam jars. I'm providing the jam jars and then I'm providing the other stuff to do the sort of centerpiece. It's going to be very sort of budget DIY, but hopefully it won't feel that way. I'm quite creative. I love a bit of Pinterest, and you know, I'm into crafting, so I feel quite confident that I can make those tables look nice without having to spend a fortune on flowers. Next, we've got decorations. Now this is a source of regret for me. So our venue, all the photos that I'd seen of our venue included this fairy-like canopy, which looked amazing, and pretty much as soon as I booked the venue, I found out who provided the canopy, and I said that we would have it. So we've paid a £150 deposit. This was going to cost us £300 and something, which was already a lot of money for someone coming in, putting up some fairy lights and then taking them down again. But I was doing it because I was a bit spend happy, and now because the wedding is next year, the price has increased, and to be honest, £423 and 50p is an absurd amount of money to spend on fairy lights, but I've done it now, I've committed. So if I don't do it now, I've lost £150. If I do it, I've still got to spend another £273, and it's not ideal, but the fairy light canopy I think will make a difference to the pictures, so I'm just going to make sure the photographer knows. Please get them in all the photos because then it will feel more worth it. So things like that is an easy way for you guys to trim the fat. Get rid of that, it's not necessary. Cake. We thought long and hard about this, and actually we aren't that fussed about cake. Originally I was never going to have a cake. Then through a friend of a friend, they make wedding cakes and we were going to have one. But when trimming the fat, this was one of the first things to go because it just didn't feel necessary. Neither of us are really cake people. It's obviously going to be a vegan wedding, and it just, I'm not really into the whole cake cutting ceremony. It wasn't one of the really important bits for me, so I found that was an easy thing to drop. So you may feel the same, in which case you can also save some money. Invitations, now I budgeted £100 for sort of wedding stationery. In the end, last year we created invitations for wedding number 1. So just a bit of background, we were meant to get married in April last year. That was cancelled because of COVID and moved to September this year. That was then postponed to September next year because I'm pregnant. So third time lucky. Hopefully this wedding's going to go ahead and be fine. But yeah, the invitations, basically I painted the sort of motif to go on the invitations, and then Molly, my very clever sister-in-law, put it all into Photoshop and made it look how I had envisioned. And then the only cost to us was to get these printed on nice card, which we paid for, at a professional printers, which we paid for, and that cost £40 last time, so I'm assuming it will cost £40 again next time, so that's why I put £40 in there. Doing your own invitations is an amazing way to save money, because at the end of the day, they're just bits of card that go in the bin. I mean, it's not very sustainable either, really. If we're thinking about the planet, then I probably shouldn't even really be doing them. I know a lot of people these days, they just send a link to their wedding website, or they just send an invite on WhatsApp. I personally don't see a problem with that. I don't think it's something that you should feel bad about doing if you want to save some money and save the planet. Hair. So amazing. So I got quotes for hair and they seemed extortionate. At one point I was just thinking, oh, I'm just going to have to get my own hair done and the bridesmaids will do between us, because it was so expensive. But I have a mobile hairdresser who's very reasonable, much more reasonable than anyone you'd get in a salon or someone that sort of specialises in wedding hair. So it's worth doing a bit of investigations in your local area as to mobile hairdressers, because they often don't have all the overheads that salons or other independent stylists have. So that can be a really good way for you to save some money. The other thing is, if you've got a number of people that need their hair doing, then you can maybe ask for a bundle price, or if you know that a lot of your guests are going to want their hair done and they're happy to pay for themselves, you can include them in your sort of amount of people to help save you some money, but then not actually end up paying for those individuals yourself. Makeup, I budgeted £250, that wasn't enough. I had a makeup quote from, again, someone who looked really good, but she was very expensive and I just didn't think it was worth it. I think ultimately I'm going to probably end up asking for someone to do my makeup professionally because of the photos. I want to look my best, but I cannot justify spending the money that people want to charge on makeup for me and for bridesmaids. It's just going to be too expensive. So I think I'm going to give my bridesmaids the options. If you'd like to get your makeup done, I'm having mine done, but unfortunately I can't fund it. Or if you don't want to have it done, then we'll do it between ourselves and just make sure that we've all stick to the same sort of neutral colour palette, etc. So yeah, I'm probably going to change my mind on this one, and it won't be quite zero because I think I'm going to cave and want to get mine done. But I just, I feel really bad, but I just don't think I can stretch to spending the money for makeup for all the bridesmaids, because you've got to think I'm spending money on their dresses, on their shoes, on their hair, makeup as well. It does all add up. Moving on to dresses, so I've let myself spend £60 on this. Once upon a time I don't think this would have been possible, but these days it's fairly easy because of things like ASOS. I'm going to pick these up nearer the time. Girls, lesson learned. I've gone through 3 proposed weddings now, or I will be on my 3rd, and I've gone through in that time a few bridesmaids dresses, and for whatever reason it's been a faff. So you've got people, you know, especially women, our bodies change. I really wouldn't recommend sorting bridesmaids dresses until as near to the time as is okay and not going to make you feel too anxious and stressed. Do not do this too early because it will just be a faff. That is all I'm going to say on that. Emily's dress, that's me. So I budgeted for this, but luckily and kindly my parents decided that this was going to be their gift to me for the wedding day. So I was very lucky. That's all bought and paid for. I've got a gorgeous dress I absolutely love. And yeah, thanks Mum, thanks Dad for that. Rings, we bought these quite recently again because we thought we were going to get... We had thought that before the baby and before the big wedding next year that we might get legally married, just the 2 of us still. We decided against that in the end because it was becoming a bit big and it felt a bit too much like 2 half weddings instead of 1 whole wedding. but we had been preparing for that, so we bought the rings. The rings were an absolute steal. So I personally, it's just a band, and my engagement ring is so beautiful and I love it so much. That's the statement. Like, I know that that was very expensive, and as long as, you know, anything that goes next to it doesn't look really, really cheap, I really wasn't fussed about how much that cost. I just didn't have any special emotional attachment or emotional need for that to cost loads of money. So I kind of knew what I wanted, and I found a ring that I liked, and in Ernest Jones, which was £325. That ring was also in the sale because there was a sale on diamonds, so we managed to get that reduced to £243.75 just because it was in the sale. Then I also had some vouchers that I'd won in a competition at work, which you can basically spend in any shop that you like. So I asked for it to be Ernest Jones vouchers, and I used these for my rings, which helped me save money. And then Louis's ring was just a really simple, I think we went for white gold, not platinum in the end because of the price. And yeah, we got a real good price on our rings. So the total for both of our rings was less than £500, which I think is really good. Louis' suit. So Louis had an emergency suit shopping trip the other day for a wedding, and because his other suit had chewing gum on and he didn't realise until the day of the wedding. And we had a hurried trip to Next, and we found him something really, really good that really suited him, and we both said, why don't we just have this as your wedding suit? Why buy or spend a load of money on a suit just for the sake of it being one that you've never worn before? Like, he's not going to wear it again in between now and our wedding. He'll wear it with a buttonhole and with different shoes and maybe a different shirt and things like that. So for us, it wasn't really important that he had something he'd never worn before. It was more important that we had something that we knew he liked and felt comfortable in. So we've actually already got his suit, and it was from Net. The suit and the shirt together cost £150, and he's already got the shoes. Bargain, because I had budgeted £300. Groomsmen's suits, we aren't going to buy them now because, again, men's bodies change too, and we don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot by getting them too early. But we're going to get the 4 groomsmen to buy their suits in Next as well, so we're budgeting about the same amount for them. It's £130 for the suit, and then we're going to ask them to buy their own shirts and shoes, or provide their own shirts and shoes, just again to save some money because they should kind of already have that stuff. Accommodation, I budgeted £200 because we wanted to get somewhere really luxury. We found somewhere lovely. It's £152 a night. We're just going to spend the one night there, and it's local. This is an unnecessary cost. You don't have to do this, but the way that we've done it is actually through an Airbnb, so it's not like a really expensive hotel or anything. We didn't tell them it's our wedding night, so they didn't hike up the price. DJ, I actually have a friend who's getting married in June next year, and she recommended her DJ, who is £280, which I felt was a steal. I think he's a fairly new DJ, like he still just does it part-time with his job, and therefore it was in his interest to like get new customers, and he's always got like sales and offers on and stuff. So do your research, do some digging, and you should be able to find someone for a similar price. Miscellaneous bits. So this was basically things like, I really wanted some photos with smoke sticks, which are like the big plumes of smoke in different colours that go behind you in the photos. And then there's the things that I've bought to help me with the sort of centerpieces for the tables and stuff. That all totaled £80. I'm not going to spend any more money on that stuff, but I probably will create some extra bits using what I've already got in my sort of craft supplies and using my Cricut machine. So I don't expect to have to spend any more money on any of that stuff. So that is how I turned a £16,000 wedding into a £10,000 wedding. I hope that was helpful. If you want me to do a video in any more detail about sort of any of the things that I'm doing myself, like any of the centerpieces or the invitation designs or anything, let me know. I feel like it was a bit of a whistle-stop tour, and I couldn't really catch my breath because I didn't want it to be too boring, because it is just a spreadsheet at the end of the day. But hopefully that was helpful and it gives you an idea. If you're just starting out and you just don't have a clue about roughly how much things cost or exactly what it is that you need to include on your list of things to buy, then I hope this was helpful. Other than that, I'll see you next week, and thanks for watching. Bye!